everyone, and welcome to Emotional Grit, the podcast where you can learn about the power of perspective and the science that fuels us. I'm your host, Jennifer Fernjack, and I'm grateful to say that my guest today, Katie Hannestad, is with us from the Minneapolis Airport. She's an employee there who works with a pet program that has pets for both people who want to come by and casually pet them. They're called ambassador pets, and pets that are considered service animals as far as how to actually get them on planes. And we'll also talk about art today and music at the airport as well. Believe it or not, all the things that I've mentioned can actually affect you physically. There's actual science behind it. So it's no wonder that Minneapolis is an award-winning airport. So for this episode and more, please feel free to go to my YouTube channel and like and subscribe. The actual channel is called Emotional Grit, and we'll go ahead and get started. So Katie, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
The pleasure is mine. I spend way too much time at airports. And so I can tell you at any given airport around the country, which ones have P.F. Chang's where I'll get lettuce wraps. I know I do it in Detroit and I do it at the Atlanta airport. At the Minneapolis airport, there's that Angel Food Bakery. Mm-hmm. I believe that's the econ course, if I'm not mistaken.
It is the econ course.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's so sad. It's just wrong that I know that. But as I mentioned, obviously the Minneapolis Airport is an award-winning one based on a customer satisfaction survey, and the actual award was given by J.D. Powers, so it's legit. But as part of that, people don't realize what all goes into running an airport and just the different things that the airport doesn't just meet people's needs as far as getting you to your flight or getting you a bite to eat between flights or different things like that, and going through security and getting your luggage. It's also trying to meet your wants too. So that being said, I want to start with artwork. So people, again, might be kind of surprised when they think about an airport with artwork, but I know at the Minneapolis airport, I've seen beautiful tile work like mosaics in a ladies' room in particular. I'm thinking of that one. There's also, of course, different paintings and sculptures and drawings and things like that. So do you know like where the airport actually gets its artwork from and how this program even started?
Yeah, so I work for Airport Foundation MSP, which is the nonprofit arm of MSP Airport. And back in, I believe it was 2006, our board of directors met and decided that we would like to sort of commit more to the airport and kind of expanding the programming that we were already doing. So we decided to add an arts and culture department to what we do. And so we started adding different artists and art pieces. And these are all done by artists, usually local to Minnesota, sometimes the upper Midwest, but local artists who really provide a sense of place for our travelers and just welcome them to Minnesota and be able to showcase what we have.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Well, and just for context for the listeners today, I want to call out the part of my book where I write about the science of how artwork can actually affect people physically. I think people sometimes tend to view artwork just more from a aesthetics perspective in terms of just it looks pretty, kind of a thing, or it looks kind of fun or whatever. But again, it can actually affect you physically. So here's what I have based on research that I did to write the book. Studies show that art can have a positive effect on people as it clinically is proven to do so by reducing stress, anxiety, and rates of depression by lowering the stress hormone cortisol. It can also lower blood pressure, elevate mood, and promote the healing of both the body and mind. There's even a new field of study called neuroaesthetics, which involves studying the neurobiological basis of the arts. Examples of forms that are studied include music, art, theater, dance, and literature. Patients who are offered exposure to them can feel a greater sense of control in their circumstance through self-expression. So all that being said, I know there have been other times where I've been to the Minneapolis airport and I'll see people who are dancing, or one time there was even a DJ that was there. I remember that. I think it might have been when Minneapolis was hosting the Super Bowl or something to that effect, and people were coming in from all over the country. But again, that can the actual relatability factor when you hear music that has meaning for you can tie into that too. But for sure, the artwork can represent different cultures and resonate with people at the airport. So pretty amazing stuff.
Absolutely.
But yeah. And of course, people also think about not just the actual people at the airport that are going to be going on flights, but it's also going to be the people who work at the airport, whether it's people in restaurants or retail stores or the security people or different things like that too. Mm-hmm. But pretty amazing. Next, I wanted to touch base on pets. And I love pets so much to the point where I'm obnoxious about it. So could you please tell people about the Ambassador Pet Program?
Sure. So the Airport Foundation hosts the Animal Ambassador Program, which is a program that uses pet therapy teams, which is a handler and then their personal pet. They go through a lot of training, a lot of obedience training. The dog has to have the right temperament. They have to take usually like a written exam. They have to do a lot of training themselves. Then they have to do an official evaluation with one of our two partners who certify and register these therapy teams for us, which are Alliance of Therapy Dogs and Pet Partners. So once these teams are certified in that way and they're official therapy dog teams and cats, we have 2 therapy cats. So our 61 dogs and 2 cats. Then they are able to see if the airport is something that they might like to do. So the airport is unique amongst other therapy animal activities because, you might have heard of other therapy animal, opportunities such as, maybe a kid reads to the dog in a library or, maybe college students pet these dogs during finals week, that type of thing. So the airport is unique in that the environment, of course, is always changing. It's very loud. There's a lot of things dropping, a lot of unique sounds like suitcases. A lot of other animals are there, pets and service animals, food smells. I mean, it just goes on and on. So as the Animal Ambassador Program, we exist to improve the travel experience, right, for both travelers and the aviation community at MSP. So like you said, people will think of travelers most often when you think about who these programs benefit, but the employees benefit just as much, if not more. So.
Oh, completely. What kinds of comments have you heard from people?
Oh, all the time. It's a wonderful part of my job to get to go out and watch people interact with these animals. And just about every day we get someone crying, right? Come up to the animal and just crying, right? Because sometimes it's, I recently lost a pet and this one looks like mine. And there's some of that, but also like, I'm so nervous for my flight and this is exactly what I needed. And we get a lot of that. We get a lot of, you just made my day. We have a lot of people who collect the trading cards for our therapy animals. So we recently
I forgot about those.
Yeah, we recently had a guy who was probably like middle-aged. He was on a business trip and he came over to the dog and like pet the dog nicely and, doing some small talk. And then out of his back pocket, he pulls out this stack of like 50 Animal Ambassador trading cards. And he says, I've been collecting them for 9 years here.
Oh my gosh, that's so great. That's so great.
Yeah, people love the program, so it's a lot of fun.
Oh, for sure. Well, I know years ago at the Minneapolis airport, I met someone who had her Great Dane there. If I'm not mistaken, I think the Great Dane's name was Bishop, I think.
Yep.
Okay. And now does Bishop still go to the airports?
No, not anymore.
Okay. So I was talking to Bishop's owner, or what do you call it? Handler? Is it handler? Oh, thank you. And I was asking her about Bishop and what kind of an effect he has on people, because usually people are kind of intimidated by Great Danes, And she's like, no, Bishop's a gentle giant, it's super nice and very, very demure. And one of the stories that she mentioned about him just got me really choked up. And I think it may even be in my book, but she shared how, in addition to going to the Minneapolis airport, she also brings Bishop to the Children's Hospital in St. Paul. And how one day she brings Bishop there, and the stranger comes up to her and is in tears. And so she said, well, what's wrong? Why are you crying? And the woman said, I owe you a debt of gratitude. And she said, well, why is that? She said, the last time we were here, my son, who's now here today to have surgery, and her son was pretty little, but my son met Bishop last time. So now, in anticipation of the surgery today, I was trying to help keep him calm and not be afraid about going to the hospital. And the little boy, I guess, looked at his mom and said, "Mom, I'm actually happy that I get to go to the hospital today." Aww. And she said, "Well, why is that?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm going to cry." He goes, "Because then I get to see Bishop."
Yeah.
So it wasn't just Bishop helping him feel good in the moment. It was also taking away the anxiety of what's going to happen in the future. Like the kid actually looked forward to going to have the surgery because of the pet. And I know that not everybody out there is a pet person. I get that. But for those of us, who are, There's a reason why VA hospitals have them for people with PTSD.
Yeah.
There's a reason why courthouses, including one I believe in St. Paul, that are what are called courthouse canines.
Mm-hmm.
They're there to help people. And more often than not, with these places around the country, the courthouses will oftentimes have these pets for either vulnerable adults or kids or just people in general who are nervous to testify. Because
Mm-hmm.
again, the animals can lower your cortisol levels, which is a stress hormone, and influence the dopamine levels and those feel
Yep.
good chemicals in your brain. And it's pretty amazing. But I also know before the pandemic, one time I was at the Minneapolis airport, and I kid you not, I saw a line of probably 4 or 5 guys all wearing suits, all looking really dapper. And they were in line to pet either a golden retriever or a lab.
Sure.
They were just super excited about it. But um, and then the other thing too is that I've seen other animals as part of these programs at different airports around the country.
Yep.
One of who was in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
It was a pig. It
Yeah.
was a little pig. It was so cute.
No.
But it's a gift that people can do this. And another touching scenario that I saw was one time when I was waiting in line to pet a dog at the Minneapolis airport. And there was a woman ahead of me who began dabbing her eyes like she had been crying. And her son was with her, and her son was in a wheelchair,
Mhm.
and he wasn't very animated. He was just kind of sitting there, keeping to himself. And she then pushed him away, and they went down a different concourse. And I asked the person who had the dog, I said, "Was that woman crying?" And she said, "Yes, but it was tears of joy." And I said, "Well, why is that?" Apparently her little boy normally did not interact with people at all. Like he was very withdrawn.
Mhm.
And But with the dog, he all of a sudden it's like his eyes lit up and he wanted to pet the dog and looked at the mom and wanted to engage with her as well. So pretty interesting how that kind of stuff works.
Yeah.
But now when you mentioned cats at the airport, do you know what their names are?
I think we have one Lucy and one. They're only here once a month. I don't know if
That's
I've
so
met the
funny.
other one.
That's so awesome.
One of them
That's
just came back from leave of absence a couple weeks ago, so I haven't seen her yet.
Oh, okay. All right, cool. So now, on the other hand, I know that there are pets who will go to the airport to be trained, if you will, because they're more like service animals as
Yep.
far as how to get on an airplane. And they're there, of course, with their owners or handlers, to find out well what the protocol is once they're on the flight and get going. It's my understanding that it's a mock aircraft that's just shy of about 50 seats in the C concourse of the airport. Could you tell listeners about that program or what it all entails?
Sure. So we have a larger program called Navigating MSP. There's a service dog portion, and then there's a family portion. So
Okay.
for the service dog portion, these are service dogs who are in training to become a service dog for the most part. So we partner with different organizations. Like recently we did Can Do Canines, which is like dogs for people with disabilities, and then we also did Soldiers Six, which is another group like for PTSD dogs for soldiers. And so those people come with their trainers from either Can Do Canines or Soldier Six, right? So most of them haven't been, assigned to a person yet, or so it's their training, right, to become a service dog for someone. So this train. This plane is our trainer plane. This is a decommissioned aircraft that was actually it was a project between the Airport Foundation, MSP Airport, and Delta Airlines. We saw the need for this trainer plane for a lot of different uses. So we use it for navigating the service dog portion. And then people who push wheelchairs in the airport, they practice on that plane as well for getting people in and out of the airplane seats with a wheelchair. Other sort of tours, like if any individual people come and say, I have a disability, I'd like to get some practice in before my flight, we'll take them to the trainer plane. So it was a great partnership. They had to disassemble the plane at Delta headquarters in Atlanta, which, they had been using it for flight attendant training. So they disassembled it, got it out the door, put it on this big truck, right, and sent it to us where we then used a crane and got it into the C concourse over kind of by C12. It's not quite an unmarked door, but it kind of looks like that to the travelers. So it's this beautiful, so there's the plane kind of sitting in the middle of this big room, right? And they painted the outside of the plane and the walls in a continuous pattern. So it's very calming colors and sort of blue and orange and red, sort of sunset hues, right? And so the pattern continues on the walls and on the outside of the plane and like all throughout there. So then the dogs come in. First, the dogs, we will take them through TSA and they'll learn how to go through TSA, right? Like, for example, some of the advice we give is, you go through first on the metal detector. You walk through first, you tell your dog to stay. Once you walk through and it's clear, you then tell your dog to come, and then they can, if the alarm doesn't go off, then you can continue on your way. Or if you do need to pat down, here's how this will go with your dog. Here are your rights at TSA checkpoints, all that kind of stuff, so that both the handler, the trainer, and the dog all feel comfortable with how TSA goes. So then some volunteers from our customer service volunteer program, we will take them to the trainer plane on the C concourse, where the pilots, they're a group of pilots who've been working it for over a decade, right? And so they kind of share some tips about flying with the service dog and what you need to know about flying with the service dog and the best way to do things. And so yeah, some of the people who are there with the dogs, most of them are trainers. Some of them are the individual handlers, but they're training their own dog. So anyway, so they teach the dogs how to sort of shuffle under the seat and kind of like get their butt back far enough where the handler can still like step over them, and it's still safe to be there. So
That's amazing. Yeah. So is our airport here in Minnesota there in Minneapolis unique for to go to that extent to have that kind of stuff?
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, we're the only airport with a trainer plane. So a lot of airports might have like a partnership with an airline like we do with Delta, where they will let us borrow one of their planes that's currently in service. Like if, there's a layover, the plane is going to be there for 3 hours, right? If we need the plane for some purpose, they might let us on, right? For the Navigating MSP program or something similar. So I think Denver has a program with United and other sort of things like that. But as far as I'm aware, the trainer plane is just us. But we have a really robust disability program here for like travelers with disabilities. We really put a lot of time and focus into that. It's a huge thing for our airport, and it's a huge priority, and we really care about that. And I think that's something that makes MSP really special.
Oh, definitely. Now, are you referring to things that are beyond the Hidden Disabilities Sunflower Program, or are you referring to the Sunflower Program itself?
So the Sunflower Program is, it's all around the world. It's the lanyard that you wear that shows I have a hidden disability, please give me extra time or assistance, that kind of stuff. So the Sunflower Program kind of goes along with the rest of our disability programming, and it's a huge part of it. So every time we bring service dogs on the trainer plane, or we bring families through navigating, anything like that, they'll all end up with a sunflower lanyard, right? It's just another tool for them to receive the sort of respect, right, and dignity that they need to fly through MSP.
Oh, yeah. So what are some examples of things that people would want to go to that mock aircraft, if you will, beyond the whole pet program? But as far as like when you mentioned disabilities and things, is it more cognitive impairments, or is it more the physicality of being able to get on, or kind of a mix? Like, what are some examples?
Sure. So one example is, sometimes we'll have a class come from like a school for the blind, right? So they'll come with their white canes and kind of practice what an airplane feels like, right? And like how they'll navigate like the aisles with their canes, and how far away the seats are, and how to read like the seat and row number, like with the braille overhead. And yeah, they get to practice stuff like that. We also use it for maybe individual families who maybe their child isn't ready for a real plane, because for navigating MSP, that always takes place, the human version, that always takes place on an actual airplane, an actual Delta airplane, like at a gate. But sometimes if people are too afraid to kind of get on that airplane in the first place, we bring them to the trainer plane individually first. It's a very low stress environment. There's no one else there. The painting, all the painting and the art in there is just beautiful. And, they can kind of go at it at their own pace. So
Wow.
some families will start on the trainer plane and then go to like a regular quote unquote navigating program. Some people just do the trainer plane and call it good. So it kind of depends on the needs of the family, the school, the group, whoever needs what, we can find what they need.
Yeah, for sure. That's really cool too. And again, is the Minneapolis Airport unique for this kind of a program, or is it kind of becoming more popular different places?
It's becoming more popular, but I think MSPs is unique because ours is so robust and it really is a partnership between so many different entities. Um, and ours, we just hit 10 years probably 6 months ago. So we've been going for 10 years. We had a big celebration and a lunch with all the people who help out with it. And I mean, it's like dozens upon dozens upon dozens, pilots, TSA agents, customer service volunteers, staff members, like from all over, all volunteer their time on a Saturday to come help this program. So, we went to a conference earlier this year, an airline or airport customer service conference, and we had people approaching us specifically to ask about our Navigating MSP program because they'd like to do something similar at their airport, right? So, some airports do have some version of it. I mean, I think so many airports do a great job, with disability stuff, but I mean, personally, I just think MSP is amazing, right? And like we really prioritize it. And it's not something we just do on the side or because someone said we should, like we really care about it.
Oh
I'm sure other
yeah.
airports do too, like I said, but
Well, and speaking of caring, I know my friend Wendy volunteers, and I forget what the term is for it, but there's that lounge, I think it is, in the Minneapolis airport for people who are either in the military or maybe have served. Is it that you're currently serving in the military or you have served? You can go in there.
I'm not sure which. I think it's if you
Yeah.
have served, like if you're a veteran and your family. It's called the USO.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I also like it when I'm ready to board a flight and the gate agent will say that anybody, I think it's if you're an active military member, I forget how they couch it, but then people get up and we'll go have a seat.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most touching things I've seen on a plane before had to do with someone boarding who was in the military. I remember on this particular flight, I had just taken my seat and I was pretty close to the door of the plane. And there's a guy who got on wearing military fatigues and he was kind of fumbling for his boarding pass and he couldn't find it. So he goes, oh, he's like, I forgot I can't find my boarding pass. I'm not sure where my seat is. And the flight attendant hears this and starts coming to him. Well, before the flight attendant could even say anything, there was a complete stranger in first class that said, please tell him that he can have my seat. He
Oh.
wanted to express, oh, I get choked up when I think about it. He wanted to express gratitude for that guy serving overseas. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so the person who was in the military got to enjoy probably some nice chicken Kiev that day or whatever it was they were
Probably.
serving. And but it was, I mean, there was an audible gasp where people who were already seated heard what happened, and then people were talking about just like, wow, that what did we just witness? That's really cool. And I've also seen amazing things about people who work at the airport.
Mm-hmm.
I know that in my book I wrote about how one time, and this was like a really, really, really cold winter. Like there's an actual term for it, and I forget what the term was, but it was a really, really cold one. And so I pull up to the airport and usually I would put my credit card in the meter to pay and then have the arm go up and be able to go park. Well, it was so cold that there was an actual I guess airport employee who was standing out there because the machine was frozen.
Oh
And so
no.
I couldn't put my card in. Instead,
Uh-huh.
he hit a button and a ticket came out or something. And he was so cheery about it. He's like, hey, have a good day. And I'm thinking, wow, I could see his breath. It was so cold. So then I got to the gate, and I remember the gate agent was wearing mittens. She was wearing mittens because all
No.
this cold air was coming in from the jetway. And
Uh-huh.
so this cold air is coming in, and before it was time for people to board over the PA system, she said to people, if you're traveling with elderly loved ones or children, make sure that they're bundled up because with the wind chill factor, I think
Mm-hmm.
it was either close to below zero or it was below zero, but something where you could see your breath in the
Yeah.
jetway. So I get on the plane, and I've been traveling so much that I thought, okay, I'm going to see the de-icing machines, presumably outside here. Sure enough, the plane's getting de-iced, and all this, I'm not sure if it's hot water or what, or chemical, whatever it is being sprayed on the plane to get the ice off. Well, there were so many people who were kind of nervous about flying in this weather that were sitting
Yeah.
at the gate initially that had to use the bathroom. But there was some rumor going around that on the plane that the water lines were probably frozen,
Oh
so
no.
you couldn't use a bathroom. So people like would go to the bathroom before they boarded. But the gate agent who was wearing the mittens was as cheerful as a guy who was outside by
Mm-hmm.
the thing to take my credit card or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And then on the flight itself, by the time we could actually, we got de-iced and the plane's now taxiing the runway, and we're starting to take off. Literally, people sat there and clapped and were cheering. And the pilot is over the PA system going, "All right, folks, we're out of here."
Yeah.
But it was that sense of community
Mhm.
amongst strangers who are normally on their laptops or busy on their cell phone or whatever. And it
Mhm.
really united people. Was pretty cool. But circling back to the Hidden Disabilities Sunflower Program,
Mhm.
I wanted to call out a few stats that I read about it.
Sure.
So, as you alluded to earlier, people who want to be a part of this program, there isn't like some kind of a list that shows that you only qualify if you have these certain disabilities. No, it's a matter of if you think that you have one, you can
Mhm.
be a part of it.
Yeah.
But I've seen people wearing the lanyards with the sunflowers on them. And as you alluded to earlier, there are airports like this all over the place that have this
Mhm.
program. It looks like it started back in 2016 at an airport in England, and now it's recognized in over 100 airports in the US and
Mhm.
over 30 countries around the world. So I think that's fantastic that
It's
we can go ahead
incredible.
and,
Yeah.
yeah, and part of why it really resonates with me is because, as most of my listeners know, I had surgery for a brain tumor back in 2016,
Mhm.
and thankfully I'm okay. But there are people who I've met since then who actually have traumatic brain injuries. Maybe they fell off a ladder, or maybe they got in a car accident, or whatever
Yep.
the scenario is. And the problem is that whether you have a brain tumor or a brain injury, people can't see it, so that they don't know to cut you some slack if something's
Yep.
wrong.
Mhm.
And so I've had people say for a long time, I wish I had something tangible like a cane or a crutch or a cast, but they
Yep.
don't. And so at least with this, with the lanyard or the different things that have the options for the sunflowers, people then can then get assistance to make their way around the airport or whatever it is that they need
Mhm.
help with. So pretty
Yeah.
cool. But
Yeah. It's incredible.
oh
Great
yeah.
program.
So the last thing that I wanted to call out as far as things at the airport that can help people physically, even though they don't
Mhm.
realize it, is what I mentioned earlier about music.
Mhm.
I know that at the airport I've seen pianos. Do you
Mhm.
know by chance if in I think it might be the luggage claim area, there used to be a sign that read, "Please play me," and it was by a piano, encouraging people to play it. Do you know by chance if that's still there? It's been a while since I've looked, but
I don't know if the literal sign is still there, but the piano is still there. It's still public and people still play it all the time.
wow. So yeah, so people are encouraged to do that. And I've
Mhm.
also seen a piano, I think it's just outside the decon course, kind of by
Yep.
E, where there'll be people, maybe they're like promoting their music they've written or cover tunes they do, and they'll get out there and play professionally, so to speak, for people. And
Yep.
it's pretty amazing. But do you know by chance in that regard, if does the airport hire people to come either, or more just volunteers who want to come and play for people?
Sure. So this program is unique compared to other airports because our musician program is part of the Airport Foundation as well. So people often think that these are volunteers, right? That these are people who love playing piano. They play piano for like other places in their free time, music therapy kind of stuff. But all of our musicians are paid. They're professional musicians from Minnesota, right? Similar to the art, we really want them to represent Minnesota, represent our talent, and put our best foot forward, right?
Yeah,
And show
yeah.
people all of the amazing talent and beauty that is from here in Minnesota. So yeah, they're on contract, they're badged employees every week. They come in and some play piano, a lot play. We have someone who plays saxophone, we have a flute player, we have an electric violin, we have an accordion player, all sorts of different talents. Some people sing, most people don't. I got some banjo. It's a lot of different um, you know, talent, right? And so these
Oh,
happen at different times and different locations in different parts of the day. So, if you're there on a Sunday morning, you might see this person, and then next time you see them, it's Thursday at 6 p.m., right, at a
right,
different
right.
spot. So, it's a really fantastic program, and we're lucky to have it.
Oh yeah. I'm lucky you have it. That's really cool to go do that. I know that other airports I've been to in the country, around the country, will either have people playing, or there are times, I think this might have been when I was in Chicago recently, and I forget which Chicago airport it was, but they actually had a showcase where it was recordings of people. Like you could watch footage of people playing in a band. You know, like they weren't there in person, but you could still watch. And otherwise, I've seen people playing at an airport in New Orleans, and one in DC and in Detroit, and it's just again, they're kind of everywhere. Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
pretty amazing how that's recognized as a great way to promote positivity at the airport and help people put a spring in their step. You know.
Yeah. And there's a specific sort of program we just started a few months ago, maybe 6 months ago, called Pet Duets, which is not animals singing, but it's pairing up one of our professional musicians with one of our therapy dogs. And so we put them in the same location for like a little extra dose of happiness, right? So this week in Minnesota, especially this weekend, is MEA, which is fall break for students. And so a lot of them are traveling this week, right? And so a lot of our programming has moved towards kids programming, right? Or very family friendly programming. So today we had a pet duet with David Billingsley on the piano, and we had Nan and Ken with their dogs, Mabel and Lily were there as well. And it's just a great gathering place in the middle of the main mall, and people, walk by, of course, stop and listen, just really enjoy the environment and really appreciate the music and the dogs and just the general vibe right in the middle of this chaotic airport. It was just a really nice moment. So that's something we've been doing for a while now, especially during these busy times.
Well, and just the novelty of it. I mean,
Yeah.
pet duets. Like I didn't see that coming. You know what I mean?
It's very cute.
It's the novelty, and novelty can also influence those feel good chemicals of the brain. You know, it's kind of like going to the state fair and seeing the county or the state's biggest pumpkin. You know what I mean? Or that kind of stuff. And wow, that pet duets. That's so awesome. I like that. But so are there other things that come to mind, whether it's part of your program or kind of an adjacent program at the airport that you want to call out as far as trying to promote again that good mental health of passengers or workers or vendors or different things at the airport?
Sure. So, whenever anything really is happening right at the airport. So you mentioned the Super Bowl. We recently hosted, some basketball Final Four a couple of years ago, I think. MEA break this weekend. The gymnastics, what is it called? The gymnastics trials, the Olympic trials that were here over the summer. Anything like that, we really sort of pull out all the stops, right? So at the foundation, we have the dogs, we have the music, we have pet duets. We also might have some gymnastics themed programming, for example, or aimed towards, young people, right? So there might be specials at Starbucks and Chick-fil-A, right? There might be this week we actually have a Paul Bunyan impersonator walking around on stilts in like a plaid flannel shirt with his big axe, and he walks around the main mall and takes pictures with people, right? Just stuff like that. That's really joyful. And you mentioned
Novelty.
the DJ. Exactly.
Yes.
And then the foundation, we also do these big like one-time performances. So we have those weekly performers, and then we also have performances. So we might get like a local gymnastics group if they have like a flip routine, they do it like, maybe it's like their recital. So, or for example, Aer Lingus recently reopened their route from Minneapolis to Dublin direct. And so when that route first opened, there was a lot of fanfare at the gate, and they encouraged everyone to wear green. And then we had a group of like Irish dancers come for like the whole afternoon, and they cycled through different groups, and we set up a stage in the main mall. Just kind of that stuff is really amazing. And then Mac, who runs MSP Airport, they do something called Surprise and Delight, which is exactly what it sounds like, right? So things you're not expecting just pop up. They bring a table somewhere and they're giving away free stuff. Or today they had a balloon artist doing balloon animals for kids. Like it's very cute, it's fun. It's great vibes. Everyone, the concessions and tenants, airlines, airport, the foundation, like we're all working together to improve the experience for our travelers, right? And improve how MSP shows up, for travelers and for the community in general. It's a lot of fun.
Oh yeah. I think what a lot of people think about the airport or any airport, it's more the hustle of
Right.
getting through security on time and getting to your gate and all that kind of stuff. And the thing is, there's a lot of positivity there too. I mean, just like granted, not all airports are the same. I get that, but from what you're describing, again, I can see where there are a lot of awards that have been awarded to the Minneapolis airport. But I'm also glad though that I'm seeing the pianos and the pets and the artwork at different places too, all around the country. So pretty amazing stuff. But I'm thinking that because you mentioned what was the duo program called again with the pets?
Pet Duets.
Pet Duets. It's like I love old school hip hop and like rap music. So you've got to have something there too. Maybe like, I don't know, rap with rats maybe or something. there's gotta be
or hip hop. Bring that idea forward.
Hip hop hippos. I don't know, something. I don't know. You could have something, but oh my gosh, that's so great. But
that's really cute.
So I want to give the listeners some resources here for that Hidden Disabilities Sunflower Program, because I think it's just amazing. So I got this little brochure when I was at the airport last Saturday. So it just mentions here there's of course a QR code that people can use to get more information, but then it mentions here who should I contact if I have questions, and it lists Shelly Lopez as a customer experience coordinator, and then it gives a phone number, 612-726-5239, and there's a website there and an email address as well, and then it has phone numbers here too for TSA Cares, MSP ADA coordinator, MSP passenger engagement office, a lot of things that I would assume are on the website as well, I would think, but and then as you mentioned for the actual foundation, that works in tandem with the airport for this kind of stuff, is there a certain website for that I could refer people to, or is it more a matter of just Googling the name? Or
I believe we're at airportfoundation.org.
Okay.
Let me double check before I tell you that for sure. But yeah, it's fun to be able to work in tandem with MAC, the airport's commissioner. I think we make a really great team.
Oh yeah.
It is airportfoundation.org.
Cool.
So that's us.
All right. Well, is there anything that we haven't talked about that we should be? Anything as I close things out that you want to?
I think I would just like all of your listeners to know, and everyone to know, right, that airports work really hard to make your experience better, right? Like we have at least dozen, if not hundreds of staff who are just dedicated, who don't work at a restaurant or any sort of traditional customer facing roles like that. Maybe don't work for an airline, right? People who are dedicated to your enjoyment at the airport. That's our entire job. And it's a super fun job, obviously. But we do everything we can to make your travel experience better. And I hope next time any of your listeners are at the airport, they'll kind of keep an eye out for things that the airport is doing, whether it's MSP or another airport, and just kind of appreciate that, appreciate that we're really trying to improve their travel experience, because it can be stressful, right? A lot of hustle and bustle, but hopefully there's some joy in there too.
Well, for what it's worth, I appreciate what you guys are doing. But I will not confirm or deny whether or not I appreciate the bakery and the econ course.
It's really good.
And the fact that they have raspberry chocolate donuts, I'm just putting that out there,
Yes, they do.
But all right. Well, for those of you who are listening today, thank you very kindly. And again, feel free to like and subscribe to the podcast on YouTube. It's on my Emotional Grit channel. And thank you so much, Katie, for being here. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Sure. All right. Thanks, everyone.